Welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. Number 9.
And this is The Fool.
This is where me and The Fool give our
Unqualified and unrequested.
ramblings on the various issues in the world of sport.
Or something like that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We are venturing away from our bread and butter, and we're not going to talk about cricket, even though everyone and their dog is talking about cricket because there's just so much cricket going on right now.
Yeah. That's just passe, you know. We're not trend followers. You know?
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we are going to be discussing our national game here in New Zealand, rugby, and also the pseudo-national game of Auckland, Rugby League.
Yeah.
And so both codes have started their seasons with us. Currently, the NRL are about to hit round 4.
Yeah.
And the Super Rugby are about to hit round 5.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just getting started in both of them, but you know, I think it's about the right time of the season. You know, the Warriors are 4th. They've won 2 games.
Clearly a match-winning season coming up.
Clearly championship-winning season. It's the Warriors' year. Clearly, I mean, it's time to call it now. Let's jump on that WahWah bandwagon. You know,
Okay.
We're gonna
Pre-season, we predict the Warriors are going to win, and they don't. So clearly, we're due, right?
We're totally due. I mean, it's been 11 years since we made a final.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely due. It's gonna happen this year.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, to be fair, they beat the Cowboys, and they beat the Knights, and pretty close against the Roosters, who are definitely championship favourites. So
Pretty much. I thought they played very well against the Roosters. I only caught highlights of that game. It's always nice to start the season with a win, like especially against the Knights.
yeah,
Then we got another nice little result against the Cowboys. So 2 places we don't usually travel well. Actually, no. Knights played at home. So
yeah. Well, Wellington, but yes.
Wellington, yes. But these games are this is a good team. I think Andrew Webster has been a really good coach so far. He's made some great decisions. He's picked great lineups. Like, all jokes aside, if Webster stays at Auckland, doesn't get poached, he could technically bring the Warriors into the Promised Land. Maybe not necessarily this season, because it's his first season. It's his first season at the Warriors, but he is a class act, I think, and I think he's got the chat spot to get the team across the line.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. They seem to be clicking together this year, I'm saying, and a lot of that is always to do with the coach, especially at the Warriors. Like, it's about the Warriors is always, you got to have a coach that can take the spirit of the Warriors, but you know, mold them in and forge them into the weapon that they need to be, to the sharp edge. So say early season, but it's the way of the Warriors. You know, it's looking good, and you know, at least they haven't started the season by losing every game. So, you know, up from previous years.
And he's taken the team to. He was at the Penrith Panthers back-to-back seasons when they won. Obviously, as an assistant, he was there.
Yeah.
And the team won the Premiership, the NRL back-to-back. So he's definitely got some pedigree. Sure, and he's obviously spoken a lot, I think, to Ivan Cleary at Penrith.
Yeah.
So I do think he would know a lot about what to expect about coaching here in New Zealand. It took Ivan a while at Penrith, to be fair, to get to that level.
Yeah.
Wasn't the most successful coach with them in his first stint, and then he went to Wests, and then he came back.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's one of the best coaches we've ever had at the Warriors.
Yeah, exactly.
Generally, got us into the grand final and got us into the playoffs three times in four times in 6 years.
I think it's 4 times in 6 years. Yeah. I'd have to look it up, but it sounds about right.
But yeah, a semi-final and a grand final. There's very little you can complain about with his tenure.
Yeah, exactly. No.
At Penrith, he went to 3 the last 4 years. I think he's shown his class.
Definitely.
3 grand finals and winning 2 back-to-back.
Yeah. It's crazy good.
Yes. Andrew Webster hopefully can bring some of that magic to the Warriors. Obviously, that's what's going to happen, right? Penrith Warriors grand final.
Yeah, let's go with that. That sounds like a great final. I'll put money on that. That's good.
Speaking of the Panthers, they've only played 2 games, 1 win and a loss, because they had a bye.
Yeah.
So they're on 4 points, same as the Warriors, who won 2 games and have gotten 2 points.
Yeah.
The Sea Eagles have won both their games with their bye. Sea Eagles look very, very good in the 2 games. They've been playing quite well. But yeah, the Battle of Brisbane, the 2 Brisbane clubs.
I know, expansion with an extra Brisbane one, yeah.
Starting off with a bang.
Yeah.
The Dolphins, we know, have been spending years and decades to try and bring another club into Brisbane. The Brisbane Broncos very jealously guarded their territory. They didn't want their city to have more than one team, which I think is a bit unfair. Brisbane's larger than Auckland as a city, and Brisbane is one of the heartlands of rugby league in Australasia. And the fact, Gold Coast and North Queensland have kind of covered. It's got Townsville, you've got Gold Coast is sort of south of Brisbane. And you basically now have another Brisbane team that's a bit more interior Brisbane, and you've got the Brisbane Broncos.
Yeah.
For a sport like NRL, if you think about it, AFL has the Brisbane Lions and the Gold Coast Suns in AFL. So that's like 2 teams, and Queensland's hardly AFL country, other than like your Lions fans. Like Gold Coast Titans are, if the AFL didn't own them, would probably have gone bankrupt years ago.
Yeah. No, you're saying Queensland's not AFL country. You're saying
They've got 2 teams in the state, and the fact so NRL should definitely have had 2 teams in Brisbane a while ago. So it's good that it's come.
I think the Dolphins are showing, that it is definitely needed, because there's
a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent in the Sunshine State, and I think Brisbane will definitely produce a lot. The fact that it's competitive, it means the Brisbane Derby is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. In fact, that is next week, Friday, 10 p.m. The Dolphins versus Broncos.
Yeah.
Which will be, let me just check where that's being played. Suncorp Stadium. So I assume they're going to be playing their derby games in Suncorp, because technically this is the Dolphins' home game, but they have another couple of stadiums that they're planning to use throughout the season.
Alright, okay.
That'll be more the Redcliffe, which is because they were the Redcliffe Dolphins.
Yeah.
I think they don't want to be just representing one club. They're so they've just become the Dolphins, and I'm guessing they're not the Brisbane Dolphins. They're just the Dolphins.
All right. Yeah. I see in a couple of weeks they're playing the Titans as well, so it's a bit of a Queensland derby there.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be an interesting season for them. Like, hopefully, if they can make the playoffs, that'll be very much like the Melbourne Storm when they first came onto the league and immediately started winning. They came, I believe, second in the minor Premier League in their first season.
Yeah, I think so.
The playoffs.
Pretty
And then
high.
in their second or third season, they made it to the finals.
Yeah.
And won.
Albeit perhaps with a little bit of additional salary cap then.
No, that happened in the mid 2000s. This team had Ruben Wiki.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The first
There
ones
was
were okay,
a
wasn't it? It was later on.
controversial penalty try, but I think it was fine. Watch that game. This is going back a while, so I might be remembering things a bit wrongly. But yeah, no, you're right that they won three in a row, which got stripped off them because of salary cap issues, and rightfully so. And apparently, Ruben Wiki, the club had asked players like Ruben Wiki, like from that original team that won the first premiership in '99, to come and give like a talk to the players, and they were like, nope, we want to speak to the directors and the managers.
All right.
And like they were like, okay. And apparently they were just like, look, you've destroyed the culture. Like the Melbourne Storm were great. We could always win because we had the culture. And we said it correctly, which I think is difficult to argue with, given how successful they've been as a franchise. Even if you include, like, this is like, it was an unnecessary thing that tarnished their name.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like forever on their record. Like, yeah, you cheated once. Yeah, you've cheated, and you've had trophies taken from you for cheating. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
The franchise. Like, say what you will about the Warriors, you know. But yeah. That being said, Storm are currently in the 13th, just one win, 2 losses. It's really early days. I would not be surprised if we saw the Storm go on a run in the middle.
Yeah, as they do.
I think the Broncos always threaten, but they're not the force they once were.
No.
In the NRL, so it'll be good to see what the Dolphins can do to put a kick under their bum. Now they actually have to compete for these fans in their city.
Yeah.
The Warriors and the Panthers. I think we'll start seeing the Panthers go up the table, but no, realistically, I think it's the top 8 that qualify for the playoffs. It's super early to tell. I'm gonna go with the Warriors, the Panthers, the Dolphins, the Broncos, just because I would like to see the Dolphins get to the playoffs.
Yeah. Be nice to see them in the first season up there.
The Seagulls, then the Roosters, the Rabbitohs, and the Storm.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can't really argue with the ones you're putting forward there. Yeah, it's still long season through. Not sure. I think of the ones you missed, that might be on the edge. Raiders. Don't think you said Bulldogs, Dragons. These are all good teams that could make it. But
these are teams that might come up and replace the Dolphins and the Warriors.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, it's a long season. Yeah. Gotta get all the way through to August, September, before we get into finals. So, yeah, 3 games in is hard to provide a true prediction. But I like your predictions.
Yeah. So, apparently the favorites to being the 18th team is Papua New Guinea.
Oh yes, no, I heard about that as well. That potentially they might go look at basically a New Zealand team or potentially a Papua New Guinea team. I think is the
I think
two
there's a lot to
theories.
be had if you have a Papua New Guinea team.
Yeah.
And also apparently one of the things they're saying is it might erode a bit of influence from China, a bit of Australian soft power
All right. Yeah.
in PNG.
Yeah. Probably will have a bit of impact, but like we were talking about it at work the other day, and just the fact that Papua New Guinea is the only country that has rugby league as its national sport, so having a team there based out of there is probably a great idea. Like,
Yeah. And they want to be they think they'll be ready by 2025, which seems reasonable. That's not too far away. 2 years.
It's 2 years to build yourself the stuff. Yeah, it's not too bad.
There'll be a fan base, no doubt.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And they can probably, like the Warriors did initially, have have a team that's dominated by local players to begin with, and then slowly build that up.
Yeah. I think it'll be good. As long as the NRL, support them and help keep them there for the first little bit, I think it'd be a very strong team eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be about establishing the team, you say, and getting the locals into it and all the rest. So the fan base will definitely be there. So I think from a financial point of view, it's not going to be too problematic. It will just be how the actual league structures go around it, and how their playing base and training facilities and everything go, and the players they get and things like that.
Also, I know it's a bit for Australia, the downside to having it at PNG, while it grows the game, the downside is it keeps that East Coast bias. There's no teams basically west of Broken Hill in the NRL. There's no team in Perth or Adelaide, and and it's not gonna expand into Hobart. So also, it would be if they did do 18 teams, they might decide to have conferences.
All right.
Which would be interesting as well. They're considering they'd put all the Sydney clubs in one conference.
All right. And then all the non-Sydney teams, is it?
Yeah. So I guess the 4 Queensland teams, New Zealand, Newcastle, Canberra,
and
the Storm.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Newcastle may be part of the Sydney clubs then.
Probably.
Because if you're putting PNG, that's 8. Because I don't think it'll be a club in Sydney, though there's apparently a lot of agitation from the North Sydney Bears who want to come back into the NRL. They said they would just call themselves the Bears, and they have said they're willing to move to Perth.
All right.
To become their team.
All right, I see. Well,
but it's not unusual in Australian sports. The South Melbourne Swans became the Sydney Swans, and North Footscray Football Club in AFL became the Brisbane Bears, who became the Brisbane Lions. So this is a tried and tested model, and those are 2 successful clubs. You can't say Brisbane Lions and Sydney Swans are proper and AFL part of the AFL landscape. They're very successful, and both those clubs have follow an AFL their old structure with members and clubs, as opposed to being owned by the AFL, which a lot of clubs are.
Yeah, that's what you mean.
So Bears would have their members, and they do have fans across the country, and so reform into I think their preferred is to be in North Sydney, obviously, and have a North Sydney Oval is already there.
Yeah.
Already exists for them, but other than that, they would love to go to. They would just want to be back at the NRL. So Papua New Guinea Bears?
Maybe. Mm-hmm.
Probably not. I think the Papua
Probably
New
not.
Guinea
No.
team are going to be the Papua New Guinea Hunters.
All right. Yeah.
That's the club that plays in the Queensland Cup. That's the
All right.
team.
I see.
So I
Yeah.
assume that franchise would just move to. But technically, it would be a fifth Queensland team, sort of.
Sort of. Yeah.
Not really.
Not actually. But sort of. Maybe. But no.
So, see, like, I think that would be my favorite for the next team if they're gonna have an 18-team league.
Yeah.
Second favorite, I'd love to see one in New Zealand, of course. There's supposedly a team based in Wellington is potentially gonna have a bit.
Yeah, they have been talking about that for a while, though, about a Wellington-based team. But yeah.
NRL loves the idea because New Zealand is like, there's so much. There's only one team. It's basically the Brisbane argument, right? One team for a whole country. And it would give New Zealand like a local rival, the New Zealand Warriors.
Yeah.
So there's apparently like Southern Orcas. So they'd be Wellington and play games in Dunedin and Christchurch.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Upper North Island Rugby League fan base are entrenched with the Warriors. I think like you're not gonna the heartland of rugby league in New Zealand in South Auckland, like counties Manukau and Auckland, and kind of North Waikato and North.
It'd be hard to put a second team up here somewhere. Yeah.
Basically, the second rugby league heartland is Wellington, right? So it makes sense for it to be the next place, and is geographically far enough.
Yeah.
That it should be their own team. They'd have a great stadium at Rugby League Park. In Wellington, and they could play big games at the Cake Tin if they wanted to. Obviously they can play games in Christchurch and Dunedin, like the South Island rugby teams.
Yeah.
And so I think definitely a good, and they would also get like the fandom from the Manawatu and Wairarapa.
Yeah.
And I think basically your Waikato, Bay of Plenty, up to Taupo, maybe even as far as New Plymouth, is pretty much Warriors country for rugby league. Like fans were coming to watch the Nines and cheer the Warriors on for those games. So like that fan base is quite entrenched. But yeah, that would be a good rivalry. Obviously, I understand the Perth question.
Yeah.
And you know what? All this logical stuff makes sense, but how good would it be to have the Bears in the NRL, though?
It would actually be really good.
Like, the heart wants the Bears.
Yeah. I always felt a bit sad for them when they got dropped out.
Yeah. Basically, Manly stabbed them.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be good to have them back.
Like, I understand it's not going to happen.
No, very unlikely. So maybe if they move to Perth or Adelaide or something where they might be able to pretend. But yeah, I think the NRL would prefer a Papua New Guinea team or a New Zealand team over another Sydney team, even if that Sydney team had moved to Perth or Adelaide.
Yeah, I mean, because at the moment, AFL, I believe, has about 18 teams from as of 2011. So NRL's already behind that code, and like the AFL have been very conservative with their expansion, and they're still bigger than the NRL in terms of number of teams, and they legitimately, like, in the capital centers, they've got 2 teams in Perth, or Western Australia. They've got 2 teams in Adelaide. They've got a bunch of teams in Melbourne. Now they've got 2 teams in Sydney, sort of, with the with the Greater Western Sydney Giants and the Sydney Swans, and the only team that doesn't have a state that doesn't have 2 teams is like Queensland. Sorry, no, Queensland has 2 as well. It's got Gold Coast and Brisbane.
Yeah.
So they've got the set almost. Other than Tasmania, nobody has a team in Tasmania.
Exactly. Well, other than the NBL now. Yeah. Basketball went there.
Yeah, there's like a proposal for AFL expansion. I know this is the third oval ball code.
We haven't really gone too much through rugby, but yeah.
Yes, we'll get to rugby. We're not expanding rugby anytime soon.
No.
That's a more politically heated discussion.
Yeah.
How we fix Super Rugby. I think NRL, if you're gonna have 18 teams, I think the 18th team makes sense for it to be the PNG team.
Yeah,
and then if you're gonna go to 20, like the logical head in me says either Perth or Adelaide, and one in Sydney, like the North Sydney Bears, and there you're done. You've got 20 teams. You've got 10 in that Sydney Newcastle area.
Yeah.
And you've got like 10 outside.
Yeah. You give up on a second New Zealand team in that scenario then. Give Sydney the 10th.
Sydney the 10th because you kind of want a bit of symmetry, right?
Yeah.
Or you could maybe have four conferences of 5 teams. And then eventually that leaves room for more expansion. You could have like another team in. But I don't know why you do that. I'm just spitballing, quote unquote.
Yeah. That's just to somehow try and find a way for another New Zealand team. But, I mean, as you say, the symmetry of it of 10 Sydney teams and 10 outside, with one of them over in Adelaide or Perth, and the return of the Bears, it has a lot going for it.
Like,
I guess there could be an argument there to be like, NRL gives up on too much of the, just says, oh, we're Eastern Seaboard, that's just what we are. And instead of having an Adelaide or Perth team, puts it in New Zealand. But I feel that, at least an Adelaide team's probably worth it. Depends on the supporter base, I guess.
Yeah, I think Adelaide is very much an AFL town. I think there would be support for like a Perth Reds if we got a Perth Reds team again.
Yeah, probably
Western Australia would Western Australia would happily have 2 NRL teams to go along with their 2 AFL teams and be like, yep, we've got our local derby.
I know, they totally would be okay. I think the only problem with Western Australia is just distance of travel to get there.
I mean, every other code does it.
Yeah, I know they do.
NRL can't be lazy.
They'll be like, but stuff. It's like A-League's like, look, we've got the New Zealand team and the Perth team. Get over it.
Yep. So does basketball.
Yeah.
So does Super Rugby.
Yeah. I think even does the baseball have a Perth team?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think they do as well. And they've got an Auckland-based team. And they've got like other teams outside of Australia. So,
Yeah.
I think the NRL just have to, sort themselves out.
Yeah, I think there needs to be one team west of Broken Hill. At least one. That's the... I don't know where it will be, but there needs to be at least one. AFL is not expanding outside of Australia. The fact that NRL will be in 3 countries is going to be a big thing, because it'll be the only... The Super Rugby is in 4 countries, technically. Really 3. But, yeah, I think the ideas are good. I think the Dolphins have showed there's still a lot of good grassroots and a lot of players that you can bring up. The thing is, I don't think like rugby league is like NFL. Like the reason why the NFL is wary of expanding into 40 teams is they think it'll be less concentrated in the talent, but I also dilute the talent pool. But I think for a while there was a big thing about, is there enough good quarterbacks?
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate concern
in
NFL.
Oh, exactly. Like, there's a few key positions there, right, that you need to have enough good players for to cover all the teams that you're going for. So, sort of makes sense in NFL that you're worried about, exactly how many good quarterbacks do we have? So we've got to have enough quarterbacks to provide good games across all these teams. So.
Absolutely. And college is not colleges are providing those players, but there's a big competition for who gets the talent, for quarterbacks, because it's a high pressure situation to be a quarterback of a franchise. You're literally the face of the team.
Exactly.
Team of 54 or 57 now. But before we start discussing a fourth oval ball coach, rugby union. So the divorce continues. We're not making friends with South Africa or Argentina.
No.
So Argentina currently don't have a professional rugby league team.
No, I'm not sure.
Rugby team.
I don't know what happened to the Jaguars. But yeah, I don't think they have one at the moment at all.
Yeah. So they started Super Rugby Americas.
Oh, have they?
Americas in Argentina. So that's a South American team league. So it has 2 Argentinian teams, 1 Brazilian, 1 Chilean, 1 Paraguayan, 1 American, and 1 Uruguayan team. I think that's a pretty decent competition. 8 teams. Like, the travel is less brutal than what the Jaguars have to go through. And it's spread out. They've got 1 team in Cordoba in the north in Argentina, and you've got a team in Buenos Aires for they're basically a continuation of the Jaguars from Buenos Aires, and then basically Corinthians Football Club, who are a multi-sport club, are forming the rugby team, and Cafeteros are the rugby union team in these are I'm looking at it wrong. These are the disbanded teams. So the teams are Dogos 11, Dogos 15 in Cordoba. I think the dogs are like a symbol of the local area. The Pampas 15, based in Buenos Aires. Cobras, Brazil. Sao Paulo. Belknam in Chile. Icare 15 in Paraguay. And they're an offshoot of Club Olympia, which is the famous football club. And Penarol doing in Montevideo. Penarol, obviously a famous sports club in Uruguay, one of the big 2 with Uruguay and Nacional. And Montevideo football clubs. And the American Raptors are playing in Glendale, Colorado. And they're usually, I think Denver hosts these rugby games. There seems to be a thing for them. So yeah, there's a potential for expansion in them. So Super Rugby Americas is is what they're using in Argentina. And South Africa is not doing.
I think a few of them went up to join.
I know there was a few of their clubs playing in top 14, and they tend to do terrible at top 14.
Did they not stay there? I wasn't sure what had happened to the rest of them, but I just assumed they'd go play top 14 or something similar. That was the whole point, right? That the South Africans were like, we want to go play Europe because that's better for us, and screw you guys. In
2020, they played a tournament called Super Rugby unleashed or unlocked. But then since then, I don't know what happened with their franchises. Like, what competition they play in, and what is happening to South African rugby. United Rugby Championship. The United Rugby Championship has 4 South African teams. But what happens to the other South African teams? So only the Stormers, the Sharks, the Lions, and the Bulls are part of the. I guess the others are kind of like extras anyway in South African rugby.
Doesn't really matter. And then there's some others.
It's like the Southern Kings, they disbanded in 2020. Looks like, and what happened to the Cheetahs? They're playing in a second-tier rugby union championship in South Africa. All right. What happened to the Pumas? Okay, they play South Africa in the Premier Division of the Currie Cup. Okay. And the Grikas play in Currie Cup as well. Okay, I guess everybody sort of has a happy ending.
It looks like the Lions and Cheetahs are playing in like the second tier top 14. Yeah. So they got the EPCR Challenge Cup.
Right. And
whilst the top 4 are playing in the whatever it's called for the top 14, United Rugby Championship. Yeah. And the others are either in the second division, or the second tier of that, or pretty much given up.
Yeah. Because current teams are the Lions not in the current top tier?
No, the Lions were in the yes, the Lions were invited for the EPCR Challenge Cup, I think.
Yeah. See, the 2022-23 United Rugby Championships does have the Lions on their table. They're 11th at the moment. No danger of being relegated. So that might just be another cup competition that they're.
You're right. The Lions are in there. Maybe it's next year. It has them invited. Lions, South Africa, Lions and Cheetahs. So I'm not. It's meant to be the EPCR is meant to be the second tier to the top 14. So maybe there's some changes next year that they're going with.
Could be.
Oh, I see. So I see the Cheetahs. No, the Cheetahs get invited. The Lions because they're the bottom. That must have been last year's one. So the bottom 8 teams from the United Rugby Championship fall out at some point, and they go play in this competition as well. So sort of Europa League, Champions League, right? You don't qualify through the knockout stages. You go play Europa League. So I think it must be something similar.
Because the Cheetahs, the Kings, and I think the Pumas were meant to play in these Northern Hemisphere tournaments. And they didn't. So South Africa's doing its thing.
Yeah.
And that leaves us with the Super Rugby Pacific, which is what's happening with in Oceania.
Yeah.
The 5 teams in both Australia and New Zealand, and 2 teams to represent the Pacific. But realistically, Moana Pacifica will never play a game outside of New Zealand.
They've had plans to take it back to Tonga and Samoa, just things have got in the way.
Yes.
Life has got in the way for them, unfortunately. But yes, no, they will be based out of South Auckland. Like, I think the plan is 1 or 2. I think it was 1 game in Samoa and 1 game in Tonga a season has been the plan. They just haven't managed to actually do that yet. Yeah, not like the Fiji and Jura, which are based out of Fiji, mostly. Other than the first season when there was COVID's involved.
Yeah, we can excuse the COVID seasons. They're understandable for being what they are, but the since the COVID seasons have ended, like I said, the Moana Pacifica I feel like are just very unlikely to ever play games in the Pacific. We'll see, but I'm not holding my breath. Effectively, they're Auckland's third team because we have the Blues and the Chiefs as well, which is how things should be, because Auckland is the rugby center of the universe.
Exactly.
I say to all Crusader fans who are one place below us in the league. But the
Crusaders did just come and beat the Blues at Eden Park, so.
Yes. So the Chiefs currently undefeated and the Brumbies currently undefeated.
Go the Chiefs.
4 wins each. Hurricanes at 3. Everybody in New Zealand's favorite team, that is. The Blues are 4th with 2-2, and the Crusaders are 2-2. It's super early days, obviously.
Yeah.
I believe the format is the top 2 Australian teams go ahead, and the top 2 New Zealand teams go ahead in the conference.
Ooh, I can't remember. I think actually they dropped all that.
Or is it just purely the top 6 go through?
I think it's now just purely, last few years it's been still with the conference thing. I think they've 100% dropped the Australian New Zealand thing. It's just top 6. Though I could be wrong. I'd have to double check the current one as I scroll.
Yes. As we both scroll.
Frantically and cover it by continuing to. No, it's not going to tell me.
And. Oh, 2023 rugby. Okay, top 8 teams make it to the playoffs. Oof.
Yes.
Given we have only 12 teams in this league.
Basically all of them make it to the quarterfinals.
You have to be really, really bad to not make it. Poor Highlanders.
Poor Highlanders. It's going to be sad for them.
And it's a seeded knockout. I mean, I get it. There's room for expansion as well with this format, because I think you can keep it up. Your 8 teams progress until about
16, basically.
16, maybe even 20.
Maybe even 20. Yeah, make a point. 20.
You can possibly do a McIntyre system, like the top 2 guys are seeded. They get by the first week of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Everybody else
go to conferences, have wildcard weekends.
Yeah. There's a bunch of things that can be done. It's still very early days in my opinion. The Drua look pretty good though. They could make a playoff.
Well, they beat the Crusaders up in Fiji, sure, but they beat the Crusaders, which is always good. Once again, early season Crusaders is not late season Crusaders, but that's a big win there, right there.
Absolutely. And if they manage to get a top 4 position in the league, going up to Fiji to play them is not going to be a straightforward thing.
No, exactly. That would be a difficult travel, so. And they're looking good as well. They're playing pretty good football, so. Who knows?
Yeah, but with all this chaos, I think it's left the Southern Hemisphere kind of not in the position to challenge for the World Cup. How do you think it's going to play out? Because obviously we think New Zealand's going to win everything. There was a bit of a complaint that the current seeded top seeds are like France and Scotland and Ireland, and those three teams are all in the same group because they did the draw back in 2020.
Yeah.
To be fair to the rugby union, they did say that they did that because they wanted to give teams and stadiums a chance to, and traveling fans a chance to, arrange everything and get ready to stay in places. And, there was a counter proposal like going, the World Cup doesn't do that. The Rugby World Cup is not like the World Cup.
Yeah.
Okay? If you held a World Cup tomorrow, randomly in the middle of nowhere, it will sell out.
Yeah, exactly.
Hotels will be built overnight to charge people like millions of dollars per night for room. But I'm only exaggerating a little bit. You would need a year to host a World Cup and sell out and make a profit.
Yeah.
It's not, rugby is not the same. And if people who would argue the Cricket World Cup doesn't do it, the Cricket World Cup's overseas contingent is all Americans who are wealthy, middle class subcontinental Indian Americans who are the biggest contingent of overseas fans.
Yeah.
And if you held a Cricket World Cup, as long as India and Pakistan are playing, it will end up, selling a good number. And the Cricket World Cup doesn't sell out all its things the way a Football World Cup does. So it's a bad comparison. If you want to be like cricket, no, don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
You shouldn't want to be like cricket. But what's happened has happened. You've got a pool where the All Blacks are playing France, Italy, Uruguay, and Namibia. Every time we play France in the group, we win the World Cup.
Yes, exactly. And we played them in the finals as well.
Yes. So,
so that's good.
To be fair, we didn't do that in 2015, did we?
We didn't have France. We won the World Cup, but we didn't have France in the
we didn't.
In the pool. No.
We beat.
But we didn't play France in the final either, so that's okay.
I believe we played England in that final, 2015.
Australia. Australia we played in the final. It was played in England, but...
Yeah, in England, yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. In Pool B, we have defending champions South Africa.
Yeah.
Against top seeds Ireland, and then we've got Scotland, Tonga, and Romania. Now that is a tough group.
Yes.
Because as much as the Group A people can complain, France and New Zealand should power through. I feel bad for Italy, but yeah, that's a tough group for them.
Italy never quite ranks high enough to not be in a tough group, so...
Yeah, and South Africa, Ireland, and Scotland have a very, very good team, but they might be sent home because there's no easy teams here. Romania are good.
Yeah.
As are Tonga.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. Tonga and Romania probably aren't going to beat any of the other three, but potentially could. Or, it would just be that but they're not going to be walkovers, so points differential may come into it. Bonus points may come into it, and it may be hard getting bonus points off Tonga or Romania, or highest score differentials. So could make it tight for the ones going through.
Bonus points is where I'm expecting New Zealand and France to get ahead. With all due respect to Uruguay and Namibia, that's probably where the points are coming. I know Uruguay have a quote-unquote professional team in the Americas, but they're still a developing country when it comes to rugby union.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
Sorry,
I
go
was
on.
going to say also, yeah, Pool B, just pointing out, I know you covered it, but yeah, those are three of the top 5 teams: South Africa, Ireland, and Scotland
Yeah.
in the world. So yeah, it's rank 1, rank 4, and rank 5 currently. So that's how well that seeding's worked.
Yeah. Remember 2020 Scotland were so poor they rejected the World Rugby proposal to have 10-team have a Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere 10-team tournament, which would play off against each other and have
Because
relegation.
they'll get relegated out of the Six Nations.
Yeah. Yeah. But they were in the end proposing a 7-team league. But
no, it's a big turnaround for Scotland really in recent years to be ranked above England and to be in the top 5 at the moment. Like that is Scottish rugby has had a big renaissance in the last few years. Like they're serious contenders, serious threats, and it's sort of sad. Yeah, Scotland is the one to be the most upset with how the pools were drawn and when they were, because they definitely lose out the most in this of having to fight in a pool of death as opposed to being in one where they would be second favourites.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
But I think look there's not many easy groups in World Rugby, right?
No, there isn't.
Because Pool C, we have Wales, Australia, Fiji, Georgia, and Portugal. Once again, this group might come down to bonus points.
Potentially, yeah.
And the Fiji and Drua playing as well as they are could be on form.
Yeah, and Wales and Australia aren't playing particularly well.
Yes.
I mean, you'd think the two of them would be good enough to get through this.
Wouldn't be the first time Wales got knocked out of a World Cup by a Pacific team.
No. And just pointing out that Georgia is actually Georgia's currently ranked higher than...
Georgia, the 7th ranked team in Europe.
Yeah. They're currently ranked higher than Samoa and Fiji. And Italy, for that matter. You're right, 7th. Like, Georgia's up in 11th spot, so... and they're not too far off Japan to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
Pool C's not a particularly easy thing.
I thought did Argentina drop out of the top 10?
No, Argentina 8. So top 10 is Ireland, France, New Zealand, South Africa, Scotland, England, Australia, Argentina, Wales, Japan. There's Georgia, Samoa, no, they're 14th. Like Georgia, Samoa, and Fiji all above Italy.
So Georgia's technically better than Italy.
Yeah. Currently, they're technically better than Italy, based on ranking points. I mean, Italy, that's possibly because Italy's just come through Six Nations and therefore spent time losing ranking points by losing games, whilst Georgia's been playing in the Rugby Europe Championship, so that means they win things, therefore get points. But yeah.
This is why the Six Nations needed the Northern Hemisphere, especially the European one, needed relegation and promotion.
Yeah. No. There's definitely teams in Europe that sort of show that it would be helpful. I mean, even Portugal's not a million miles below Italy. I mean, they're reasonably far in ranking points. But,
yeah.
You get down to 15 Tonga, and then you drop a reasonable amount of points down to Portugal and Uruguay and USA and down from there. But
yeah. But Portuguese rugby is coming along quite well. In the last few World Cups as well. And then we've got Pool D with England, Japan, Argentina, Samoa, and Chile. So, once again, 3 good teams in that league. 4 good teams in that group.
That's very good. I mean, this is the one Scotland could complain most about because all of these teams are ranked below them. Like that, this is a Pool D where every single team is currently ranked below Scotland, who's in a pool with South Africa and Ireland, who are two, favourites for the title. So, if I was a Scottish fan, that's where I'd be the most upset about when this was done. Because yes, obviously it's 2020. England were close to top at the time. Well, fourth, obviously, to be in Pool D. So yeah, it's how that goes. That I can imagine Scottish fans not being happy at all. But it means that they get the chance to pull an upset. Do they knock South Africa out? Do they knock Ireland out? The number ranked team, because they can beat these teams.
Yeah. Absolutely, they shouldn't fear anybody.
And I mean, this is a chance, and Pool D is a chance for England to get themselves back into their true form for knockouts. So whether that happens, or it's a potential for Japan and Argentina, or Samoa to do a 91, Japan to continue their good vein of form in recent years, really, and especially the last couple of World Cups, where they're starting to show that they're not the pushovers they were for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Japan they're no longer the second-ranked team in that pool, but they do get second-ranked billing. Yeah, so I think they sort of deserve it in terms of the last few years, like the last 4 to 8 years of work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. But the thing is, they have to make the draw at some point.
Yeah, no, it has to be.
And at that point in 2020 made sense. Like, we didn't even know how quickly people would be able to get tickets and get arrange their flights. So I think blaming World Rugby is a bit unfair. And Scotland always complained. Remember in the 2019 World Cup, they were complaining that Japan would get would go ahead if both sides did not play in their thing. And like Italy complained a little bit, but they had to beat the All Blacks by 75 points.
Yeah, exactly. I do remember that. No, to be fair, complaining is Scottish. It doesn't need to be about the rugby, it can be about anything. But why not complain about the rugby?
Exactly.
I understand you say. The draw has to be made at some point. In this case, it made sense for it to be in 2020, just so that there was plenty of lead in, everybody knew what was happening, things could get sorted, because there was so much uncertainty back then. Even being like, could the 2023 World Cup go ahead? Who knows? We'll find out, I guess, in a few years. So it made sense, and so it has to think. But yeah, the fact that Scotland's rugby is since then just gone on this massive renaissance, I sort of understand how Scottish fans can be very upset about it and be like, there is unfairness here. It's like, there is unfairness, but the fact is that it was no unfairness. And it's just, you knew which pool you were in, who else you were in. You just gotta play the cards as they're dealt.
Exactly. And Scottish rugby, if it's a true renaissance, this team should still be able to compete in Australia in 2027, maybe even the United States in 2031. When that tournament comes in. Rugby is definitely spreading the game. They're basically, I think their process of trying to get as many non-top 10 countries to host the tournament is definitely gonna pay dividends for the sport in the long run.
Yeah.
Now, who are we picking from each group? Like the super too early to call.
Well, okay, Pool A is New Zealand, France, and I'm going to be patriotic and pick New Zealand first on that, though that game between New Zealand and France could be very...
Whoever wins that game between New Zealand and France is going to win the World Cup, right? Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely go for a New Zealand-France final as they both come out of that pool and then win through from there. Oh, see, they do, yeah. I was checking. I thought this was the case, but yes. And New Zealand-France is the opening game as well, just to really help there. Like, this time they've done it right. Like, I remember the 2011 World Cup, and there was New Zealand-Tonga, I think, the opening game. It's like, come on, you've got New Zealand-France in the same pool. Just, that's what everybody wants to see. Make that the opener. Like, it's this thing. It's become its own thing, New Zealand-France at World Cups. You need to lean into it. You can't, like, try not to.
Absolutely. Second group with
Ireland's going to top it, I think, but I really don't want to pick the second place team.
I'm gonna go with South Africa. I think they just always up for World Cups.
They do. I sort of want to go
and
Scotland.
They're defending champions.
But, yeah, I still want to go Scotland. Not really against South Africa, but say they do step up for it. But this may just be Scotland's time.
Yeah, but Scotland traditionally choke at World Cups.
You do make a point. They do. Okay, no. Ireland, South Africa, Scotland chokes. Something weird happens, and they get upset. Yeah. They can win it next time.
Next up, Pool C. Wales, Australia, Fiji, Georgia, Portugal.
I think Australia will make it through top. Wales being a bit pants this year in the Six Nations. They're not at the level they were at when this got drawn.
They will be knocked out by a Pacifica team again?
I'm actually almost thinking Georgia. Like, the Georgian team's looking good. I don't know, this could be a bit of a test for them about are they as good as they are looking? Like, I almost think Australia, Georgia. Like, Fiji could, but like, no, they're just, as a team, as a nation, it's hard. Like, the problem with the Pacific nations is that they just don't get enough rugby as a team. Like, at any other time other than World Cups. They go to a World Cup and that's the time they get to actually, train together and be a team, basically. They do a little bit of pre-season or early season stuff in New Zealand and Australia and a bit of a tour around Europe, but normally the sideshows to the New Zealand, Australia, South Africa tours. So this is the
three Pacifica brothers always overperform at World Cups.
They do pull together well for the World Cups.
And if there's Georgia, like if it comes down to bonus points, I think Fiji can score tries against Portugal.
Oh no, Fiji will get more bonus points. So I just having a feeling about this Georgian team, and like it may just be that they do a couple of upsets, like the Japan 2015 when they beat France. That was 2015, wasn't it? Yes. And so maybe Georgia causes a few upsets, but doesn't quite make it out of the pool. But I don't know. I just feel the Georgian team's looking pretty good.
Yeah, no, I get it. I definitely see what you're talking about. But yeah, I feel like he tends to do I think Fiji tends to do well at World Cups.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know. I can't look down on Wales. No. Wales also tends to overperform at World Cups.
They do.
I'm gonna go. Like, we'll look back at our recording and like probably laugh, but I'm gonna go Australia-Wales.
Okay.
After all that talk of Fiji and Georgia,
you could go the thing. Yeah, and I know Wales overperformed at World Cup, but they were pants in the Six Nations. Like.
Yeah. I know.
Like, it's just like, yes, Wales, you do well and stuff, but whew, you were so bad. I don't know. We'll see. I think, to be fair, I think Pool C is the actual pool of death here. Being talking about Pool C. Pool D is also a pool. Like, they're all pools of death, really. But Pool C, even saying Australia is going to top the group, I don't feel confident in that. Like,
Yeah.
it.
Because Pool D, I don't think England are going to top this group. I think Japan and Argentina can scam it.
I feel like England's going to do well enough to come second in the group, but yeah, I don't think they're going to win.
There will be hostile crowds in every game against England.
Yeah. I know. I still think, I mean, that's just going to get their backs out right, and it's going to give them something to unite around. But so I don't see them not coming second, but I could see almost any of the next three, Japan, Argentina, or Samoa, like beating England as well. So, like, it's possible they may end up third but I think they'll be second, and either Japan or Argentina will come first. Probably Argentina, which would be unlucky for Japan, but. Yeah, I sort of see Argentina, England as the most likely.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think, Argentina, England is the most likely, but I think Japan, they've secured their position here. They've climbed the mountain. I would love to see them do it. But yeah, you're right. Probably England, Argentina, probably the goal. That's what my head says.
Yeah. See how it all goes. Maybe they need to expand the World Cup. 32-team World Cup, come on.
Yeah. Expand the World Cup, guys. Absolutely. But I think that's going to be after the 2032 one, right?
31, yeah. If they think about it, yeah. I mean, you could probably expand a little bit further. 20th teams. I don't know how that could work in terms of scheduling and format and all the rest.
Yeah. That's a weird situation.
Yeah. But you do have, like, Russia at 25th. Russia's been to a World Cup. Canada's at 23. Canada's been to World Cups. Yeah. So, not horrendously bad teams down that way. Like, not unknowns. Sure, they're a bit underperforming. They've dropped down from where they were.
Yeah.
And especially with Super Rugby Americas, that should give some strength to the South American teams.
Like the whole American continent, right?
Yeah.
Like we're probably gonna see more potential. We'll probably see more potential teams coming in from it'll from Canada and the USA joining that tournament.
Yeah.
And then eventually you will, the tournament will fully represent the continent.
Yeah.
But for now, they're not quite there yet.
Not quite, no. Here's a bit of trivia, just as I scroll down. I don't know if you've scrolled down. Do you know what the bottom ranked team in the IRB World Rugby rankings is? In the men's rankings?
What is it?
American Samoa. Which I found interesting since Samoa is quite high up. American Samoa is the bottom ranked team.
Because they play American football.
Yeah. And basically they never play rugby. Their last match was the 2015 Oceania Rugby Cup, where they lost 20-8 against Tahiti.
Yeah, that kind of just tells you all you need to know, right?
Yeah, it does. See where their focus is and their strengths. Yeah.
Which is fair enough. They're a rugby union team. What else can you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But we'll see how the Super Rugby all plays out and what effect it has on the rest of the tournament. Being a World Cup year for the men, it's going to be an interesting time. How all these dice and the rollouts do, and obviously injuries play out for the teams. But
yeah, exactly.
Either New Zealand or France win the World Cup, right? That's basically our prediction.
That's how this goes, yeah. To be fair, a bit more seriously, I think Ireland, New Zealand because it's the All Blacks. So All Blacks versus the New Zealanders. But otherwise, the other team to me is either going to be Ireland or France. To me, it's one of those three teams. Well, it's New Zealand versus one of those two teams, and see how we go. Traditionally, it should be France because that's how it works when New Zealand plays France in the same pool.
Pretty much, one of those two both those teams make the final, and then they sort it out between the two of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And we will see if that plays out this World Cup too, but don't be surprised if it does. I think that's all we have time for today.
Yeah.
So, thanks very much for listening, and see you all next time.
Catch you next time.
Well, that is the end. Thanks for listening all the way through.
If you liked what you heard, we have even more. 9642 Discord and a Buy Me a Coffee.
Pretty sure it's Buy Me a Beer.
Oh yeah, buy me a beer on buymeacoffee.com.
In both these places, you can talk to us, and we may even listen, especially if you do buy a said beer or coffee. I might still be confused.
Yes, we're easily bribed. All links are in the show notes below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This is on YouTube.